Can we trust Kissy Missy? Throughout the story of Poppy Playtime, we've been betrayed so many times. Huggy turned out to be more than just a statue, Doughy turned into the dude from Geico, and Poppy left us in the end of chapter 4. However, throughout every single chapter, the one character who we pretty much know for sure we can trust is Kissy Missy. She's never done anything bad to us, except for that one time in chapter 3 where she tackled us, but I'm gonna get into that and the reasoning on why she did it. But my main question is, can Kissy really be trusted? And the reason I say this is because in chapter 3, when Poppy finally shows us the Hour of Joy tape, we see all of the toys go rampant in the factory and kill everyone. And one person we did not expect to see is Kissy Missy. In the tape, we see Kissy kill 2 employees and run after a third. And since this is included in the Hour of Joy tape and it happened right as the Hour of Joy was happening, it leads me to believe that she was in on the Hour of Joy. But why is that, and why in the world do we trust her even after seeing that? Because we literally see her kill several people, and then all of a sudden we're cool with her just popping up out of nowhere and placing Poppy on the elevator. And if she's killed people in the past before, then what's stopping her from killing us whenever it's convenient for her? Well, let's go all the way back to when we first saw Kissy Missy. In chapter 2, Mommy Longlegs forces us through a series of mini games, seemingly to toy with us before she finally kills us. However, in between these games, we were forced to solve different puzzles in order to make it to the next one. And one of these puzzles was to drag a minecart through a series of doors, which required us to use the green grab pack hand with precise timing. But before we can start the puzzle, we're completely locked out. There is zero way for us to actually start the puzzle. But once we walk up to one of the gates, we hear an alarm going off and see Huggy's silhouette in the darkness. And if this was your first time playing it, you'd be both confused and terrified at the exact same time. But once she comes into the light, we see that it actually isn't Huggy, but instead Kissy. She then comes closer, looks at the lever, and then decides to flip it for us, opening the gate. But before we can make it through, she gives us one final glance and walks off. And she probably ran off once she turned the corner because she was nowhere to be found. And although this seems like a very basic interaction, it gives us a little bit of insight into Kissy's character and what she's like. We can see that she's almost hesitant to help us. She looks at us multiple times, almost as if she's trying to gauge whether or not we're friendly. And since she used to be experimented on, then if she sees humans, she's already gonna be a bit tense and almost scared of us. And so here, we see that Kissy did end up helping us, but ran away just in case we would be someone who she can't trust. And we see even more of this come out in chapter 3. When we made it down to Playcare, we eventually entered Home Sweet Home. And after our hallucination sequence, we eventually enter a room where we see Kissy sitting on a bed staring at a photo. And the girl in the photo is most likely her before she turned into an experiment. And if that's true, then she's most likely wishing that she could still be that same little girl, because by now she's got to be at least 15 to 20 years old. Because if she was transplanted around the age of 5 or 10 and 10 years have passed since the Hour of Joy, she's at least 15 and most likely even older, because she could have been created a few years before the Hour of Joy. However, what's really weird is that she just stares at the photo the entire time. She doesn't flinch at us entering the room and doesn't even bother to look at us. So we continue on through Home Sweet Home. But once we finally manage to exit, Kissy immediately tackles us to the ground and starts growling at us as if she's about to attack us, or at least trying to intimidate us. But before anything else happens, Poppy comes in and tells Kissy not to kill us and that we haven't done anything wrong.
Anything wrong. We're actually here to help. This place makes her tense.
But it's after this that we get to see what Kissy is really like. She then puts Poppy on her shoulder like she's a parrot or something. She helps Poppy turn on the lights, and that's when we see just how nervous she is. After literally tackling us down to the ground, she is now holding her arms together and refusing to look at us, giving very fleeting eye contact and even holding on to her leg when she sits down. And this leads me to believe that Kissy was really trying to attack us in self-defense, because if all Poppy had to do was tell Kissy that we haven't done anything wrong, then Kissy must have assumed that since we were messing around at Home Sweet Home, we could be threatening her territory, which is why she would tackle us as soon as she got the chance. And as for when she was looking at the photo, there is zero explanation for that. It was literally just plot convenience that she didn't attack us. Or maybe Kissy can break the fourth wall and know that we can't attack her. But be sure to remember this regretful and shy behavior for later. The last incident I want to go over is when we were in the ventilation block in the end of chapter 4. After defeating Doey, we slide down into the ventilation block where Kissy and Poppy are hiding. And y'all know I gotta bring it up because these two should not be alive. They should be cooked to smithereens right now. After we fixed the generator, Poppy literally told us to meet her back at Safe Haven. Yet she somehow survived the explosion, yet all of the other toys, which are exactly her size, didn't?
We shouldn't wait anyway. Head for the foundation. Plant the explosives. Meet back here after. We'll go over what comes next.
And even Kissy would be dead pretty quickly. She's already very weak, as in chapter 2 we saw that she failed her first attempt at flipping the lever. And so if she's now injured, there is no way she'd be able to run away in time to escape the explosion. But either for plot convenience or the biggest foreshadowing in the entire game, they somehow managed to survive and are in the ventilation block. But the reason I bring that up again is because it's possible Poppy knew that the explosion was coming, but Kissy didn't. Because in the phone call, we hear that the prototype doesn't want to kill Poppy. So Poppy could have told Kissy to come with her outside of Safe Haven in order to save them both. And Poppy would have Kissy as protection, because in chapter 3, we see that these two travel around together so much that Kissy literally puts Poppy on her shoulder like a parrot. But during the phone call, before the prototype even reveals that he was Ollie, the exact millisecond Kissy heard this man's voice, it ain't even a man, my bad, but she immediately started quivering, got in a fetal position, and even buried her head in between her legs, just showing how much she fears the prototype. But what's even more interesting is that the way she'd been acting in every single chapter shows that she still behaves like a little girl, even if she's way older now. But the last time we see Kissy is when she shows her true character. The prototype planted some bombs underneath us and threatened Poppy, saying that it's time to come home, which caused her to start hyperventilating and eventually leave us behind, which has one of two explanations. Either Poppy left us behind to betray us, or she left us behind since it's better for only two of us to die rather than all three of us. But regardless, when Kissy sees Poppy run out of the room, she gets up, looks to see where Poppy went, and immediately we just see her arm drop down. Kissy must have felt betrayed by Poppy, because after all those years of sticking together after the hour of joy, for Poppy to just leave like that is probably soul crushing, especially since they've bonded over traumatic experiences such as the hour of joy and all of the years trying to survive the prototype's control. But it seems that Kissy locked back in real quick, since we see that she starts looking around the room, probably for an exit. But before we can leave, the beeping for the bombs get even louder, causing Kissy to instinctively grab us and try to keep us from falling down. However, most likely due to her injuries, her arm starts to tear, and with trying to lift all our weight, it completely tears off and falls down with us into the cave. And since Kissy doesn't end up falling down with us, we can assume that she's either going to show up in the beginning of chapter 5, or she managed to do a one-arm pull-up to save herself. And if that's the case, I didn't know Kissy was into calisthenics like that. But it's important that you realize, even though Poppy just betrayed Kissy and they've known each other for years, Kissy still tries to help us. And the crazy part about it is that maybe a day or at most 2 days have passed in the game. And so, even though Kissy already is slow to trust people and didn't know us for more than a day, she still tried to save her life. And with all of this, we can finally determine whether or not Kissy can truly be trusted. We can see throughout all of the chapters that she acts more like a little girl who's been abused. And so she's very quick to act out in order to save herself or help others. However, the Hour of Joy still poses a problem for this, but I do have an explanation. In the Hour of Joy, it's possible that Kissy wasn't in on the plan, but instead took her opportunity to free herself. In chapter 3, when Kissy tackles us to the ground, she wasn't in any immediate danger, but was probably doing so to protect herself and maybe even the other toys that were in Safe Haven. And so, during the Hour of Joy, after her transport was finished, she most likely heard the screams of the employees and toys and picked up on what was going on. So when the employees took off her straps, although not in any immediate danger, to protect herself from future harm, she could have just killed the employees so that they would never experiment or lock her up again. And this would explain why she kills the 2 employees next to her and even goes after the 3rd one who was running away. The employee may have been running for his life, but he did not treat Kissy's life with the same value. But because when we interact with her, we see her act just as a little girl would, it's possible that although she was trying to defend herself, she could have felt the guilt of killing the employees, leading her to go back to the wooden board and stay there, which actually would be a good thing for her character. I'm assuming that all of the toys who were actively part of the Hour of Joy were killing the employees until there were none left. However, if Kissy only killed 3 of them who were immediately around her and then stopped, it shows that she might not have been in on the plan, but instead just managed to be part of the Hour of Joy tapes, since she did technically kill a few employees during the same time. But let's go super in depth with this. In game, when we see that Kissy was part of the Hour of Joy, we're not gonna assume that Kissy was just defending herself, cause she's literally in the tape with a whole bunch of other murdering toys. Our game characters should be terrified of Kissy by now, but yet we continue to trust her anyways, and it seems to have paid off since she did try to save us in chapter 4. And so overall, it seems that Kissy isn't evil, but instead she's just a scared little girl who's been put into one of the worst situations a person can be put into, and now she's trying to do what seems best and trying to defend herself and her friends. But there's one last question. If Poppy knew that the Hour of Joy was coming, which is what Sawyer tells us, and she even tells herself in one of the tapes,
I didn't want... This wasn't what I thought we were gonna leave. Leave the factory. Not this. All those people.
does this mean that Kissy could have also known the Hour of Joy was coming? Because if she did, then does this mean that it might not have been a coincidence when she killed those employees? Well, even if it isn't, just based on everything we see, it seems that she doesn't actually want to kill everyone, nor us, but instead she's trying to protect herself and her friends. And due to the fact that she was about 10 years old with a giant body that can shred people to pieces, that could have caused her to act out during the Hour of Joy to try and save herself of the torture. And we do know that the torture that Playtime was doing to them was so bad that it made Poppy pretty much lose her identity. In the tape where Poppy describes what happened to her, she's talking to the prototype disguised as Ollie, where she tells him that after each surgery that they do on her, she feels it less and less and feels as if she's becoming an object. And the tape ends with Poppy crying and the prototype telling her that he'll always be there for her.
Poppy? nothing more they can do to hurt me. They don't care how much anything hurts. It's been weeks and weeks of taking things out and putting them back in, and taking things out and putting them back in. Over and over and over. Nothing's ever gotten better, and it'll never get better. But you know what scares me more than anything, Ollie? It scares me that every time they do it, every time they peel me open, I feel it less. I hate them, and I hate him. I'm nothing now, Ollie. No one. I'm a thing. I'm here, Poppy. For you, I'll always be here.
And so, Kissy could have been going through similar experimentation, but even if she wasn't being operated on as much as Poppy, we know that the prison was where the toys were kept, as in a chapter 3 tape with Catnap, Leith tells Catnap that he belongs in the prison.
But look at you now. The kids love you, and that bred smoke. I mean, that's fantastic, isn't it? Is his, voice thingy still broken?
Prototype will save us.
Theo, nobody's gonna save you. This prison is where you belong. We'll let you out here and there to go see the kids in play care, but your home is here. And as for the prototype, his home is in the labs.
And so if all the toys were being kept in the prison, probably given just enough food to survive, and even forced to fight each other over food, which Doey told us during the prison yard puzzle, it makes sense why Kissy would lash out and kill the few employees around her during the hour of joy.
During the day, they'd have us work. And for those of us who couldn't or wouldn't, at night, when no one important was watching, they'd take them. Stick them in here. We only got food for one of you this week. They'd say, which of you will it be? They'd watch from up there. It was usually over within minutes.
So I would say we could trust her, cause bro, after what Doey and Poppy did, I need somebody on our side, and Kissy seems to be the exact person we need. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and click on this video right here.